This episode is brought to you by Living Proof Church, a non-denominational, spirit-filled church in Araby, Louisiana. Services are held Sundays at 10 a.m. and live streamed on YouTube. Visit us at livingproof-church.com to plan your visit.
You are listening to Commission 6-8.
This viral image has become a symbol of the violent riot that engulfed the U.S. Capitol back on January 6th. Now the Bay Area man you see carrying away the House Speaker's lectern is ready to plead guilty.
Adam Johnson will always be known as the Lectern Guy.
On the evening of his inauguration, President Donald Trump not wasting any time getting down to business. He has just returned to the White House and is signing a series of executive actions in the Oval Office, where he is pardoning some 1,500 January 6 rioters who have been convicted for participating in the attack on the Capitol 4 years ago.
All right, well, today we have a very special guest, Adam Johnson, also known as the Lectern Guy.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. And first, let's just tell us who you are.
My name is Adam Johnson. I'm known colloquially on the internet as the Lectern Guy or the Podium Guy or Via Getty. Accused of being a violent insurrectionist a few years ago. Since then, pardoned by the president and just enjoying my time online.
Well, let me ask you this. The lectern, first of all, what's the difference between a podium and a lectern?
I get this a lot. So a podium is something that you stand on. A lectern is something you speak behind.
And did you coin the term the Lectern Guy, or was that given to you?
That moniker was assigned. So initially it was via Getty. There was a journalist who saw that the image that was taken was done by Getty Images. And when they give credit, they say via Getty or from Getty. And so people thought my name was Via Getty. And then that lasted for a couple of days. Then it was the Podium Guy. And then the internet corrected people. It's not a podium, it's a lectern. So the Lectern Guy was then birthed. That is my online given moniker.
Well, you own it well, right? So I know you have a book called Take a Stand, which, by the way, great name. Excellent name. I'm a big fan of naming things and coming up with great name. It practically wrote itself, right? Did you come up with that?
I read it online a couple of times, went back and forth what the name should be, but Taking a Stand is definitely the right name for it. I think it's got a lot of double meaning to it, so.
Do you have a copy of it?
I do. I have it in paperback, very clean edition here, and I also have it in hardcover. And you can purchase these on my website. The website is called unlicensedfurnituremovers.com.
Unlicensedfurnituremovers.com. So we're going to later on in the show. I'm actually going to purchase one of those books and give it away to a listener. And I'm going to purchase one for myself as well. I'm very interested to read it. I haven't read it yet. Also, my producer, he's a huge fan, first of all. He wanted to be on the show. I didn't let him because that's not his job. But he wanted to be here to ask you questions. But he wanted me to ask you, and we're going to get into it. We're going to hear your story. But it was Nancy Pelosi's lectern, right?
I mean, that is what they say. But technically, it was purchased through tax dollars of Americans. That lectern is then, used by whoever the Speaker of the House is at the time. So it's been around for a long time. To say it was Nancy's is kind of a misnomer. It belongs to the people.
Well, he wanted to know if it, when you picked it up, did it smell like vodka, or was there like a place where she kept vodka, or?
I did
question.
Check. There were no secret compartments.
No secret compartments.
Nope. There was a high stench of lacquer, not liquor.
All right. Well, okay. So before we get into your story, you are a father of 5, correct?
I am. 5 sons.
5 sons. Excellent. I love to. First of all, thank you for raising young men. There's not enough dads around raising strong young men. My last episode was actually about the falsehood of toxic masculinity and how no fathers in the home lead to weak men. So thank you for that. And that's got to be a lot of energy running around the house.
It's I describe parenthood as a constant rebuilding and transitioning of yourself into becoming what they need as they grow. Being a parent changes from the years when they're 0 to 5, where they need a lot of guidance and a lot of, they don't really have personal autonomy yet. They act like they do, but they don't. It's our job to keep them safe and secure and raise them. And then as you move on as a parent, you transition from what they need. And as they become older and older, it becomes less of I'm telling you what to do to, I can give you advice if you ask for it. But if you do a good job in the first 13, 14 years of their lives, they're asking less questions, just making better decisions.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. And, the word tells us that raise up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. A lot of times we think that means the whole time he won't depart from that. And I'm sure you have great sons. I'm sure they're doing great things, but keep up the good work. So let's jump into your story. And I want to start with how did you decide to go to DC? I know I saw it unravel live on the news. I didn't even know that was happening. So tell us about that.
Well, post 2020, I was pretty apolitical. Maybe libertarian is the best way to describe my beliefs and viewpoints on the government and, how things should work at large. And, raising 5 kids, having 5 sons, I saw Trump won in 16. And part of my politics was I'm a non-interventionist, don't really like war, don't think that my kids should have to fight for, foreign allies across, the oceans. And Trump gave us, no new wars. He actually got us out of wars. So it was a big reason why I got on the Trump train. And we had some predictions that if, Biden had won the election, we would see that same machine start up again. So listen to some podcasts, learn some stuff, really got more invested in it because I believe that, you can't just sit back and expect things to get better from the sidelines. You have to actually be proactive and understand what's going on. So in that, I'd never been to a Trump rally in my life. I did vote for him in 16 and in 20 and in 24. And I decided, I would go to my first and only Trump rally in DC. I thought it was, the last hurrah, last one to see. So we bought some plane tickets to go there and went there with a friend and showed up to the first Trump rally. It's kind of a very impetuous decision, kind of spur of the moment. We bought tickets maybe a week and a half before January 6th.
Yeah. So spare the moment, but that, changed your life forever, right?
Yeah.
Talk about two paths. So once you showed up, once you got there, what was the attitude like? Just walk me through the beginning versus going to the Capitol. What was the atmosphere?
I always say it's almost akin to going to some type of fair, some type of local fair without the rides and cotton candy. There were still street vendors, hot dogs, things like that. But the ambiance, the demeanor of the people were just kind of happy, jovial, even though that day we were, watching what we believed our country being stolen from us. But there was still a very positive energy in the crowd, still a very, positive atmosphere. And we watched a bunch of people give speeches down by the Washington Monument. And what was hanging in the air was almost a sense of optimism where even if things did transpire the way that we knew they were going to transpire, which was, the election was over and Biden wasn't put into office, we still had hope that our country would one day be restored. And us being there, sharing our voices and just being collective in DC was a way to show the rest of our brothers and sisters across the nation and the world that we're not going to go quietly into the night.
So, yeah, and it's important to have that voice, and it's important. And you would say everything was peaceful up until possibly it wasn't, but before the Capitol, everything was peaceful. Let me ask you this. Did you notice anyone in the crowd trying to instigate anything before the Capitol?
Not at the monument, not where Trump was speaking through, from the White House lawn on the screen, not from when all of these speakers were on stage. No one was there to cause any actions of violence or commit any types of treasonous behavior. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the Capitol was actually being sieged and fences were actually being taken down while Trump was still speaking. So the population at the monument watching at that rally had nothing to do with the initial, breach of Capitol grounds.
So you had two different sections. It was two different crowds of people.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important telling the story. That's something I never knew. Two different crowds of people. So then at some point, crowd from the monument goes to the Capitol.
Yes. And it's important to also note that there was a scheduled rally at the Capitol that day as well on the books. So this was not some impromptu group of people that showed up. There was a scheduled rally to be held at the Capitol. Now, the planning of that is difficult to unpack and look into because anyone can say we're going to host an event and alert people and schedule something. But when those two crowds merged, you have to understand the crowd that was already at the Capitol had already started their walk onto Capitol grounds and, pushing through gates and fences. And there were police officers who were opening up those fences that were laid out to block a couple of sidewalks. And there were some people who did stupid things. But as far as the crowd that was at the monument, we walked slowly from the Capitol a couple miles down Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol. By the time we got there, things had already popped off.
Right. So, and just so you know, my show is not a conspiracy theory show. I don't like to chase rabbit holes, but there was something recently, I'm sure you saw, a reporter asking Nancy Pelosi about the Capitol. So what are your thoughts on that? If do you think she had something to do with it? Do you think possibly this was a setup?
I try not to conspiracy theory myself or rabbit hole too much. I have a 2-week rule of thumb where if I see something happen in the news, I wait for everyone to talk about it, try to assess everyone's opinions, and then try to, give my opinion afterwards because I like to hear all sides.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi had an option to call in the National Guard. They were there the night before. I saw them on January 5th posted up all over D.C. They were already present. There's an interview that she did inside of an SUV where she said, this is our responsibility. The National Guard should have been there. She had full autonomy to make this happen and power to make this happen. And she did not. We now know that there were over 200 plus FBI agents that were there. And that is additional to the confidential informants that they had there. This is not including DHS, ICE agents, ATF agents, anyone who actually works and participates in DC as their vocation. So we know that there was probably somewhere between 200 and 500 people in that crowd who were sent there. And that takes planning. That is not impromptu, assignment. That takes plans. That takes, getting emails, people sent out. So do I think that it was an FBI coup to over the Capitol? I wouldn't go as far as to say that it was planned, but I would go as far as to say that it was within the realm of, if this happens, there is a plan to facilitate and allow it. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot murkier than that. I don't think it's as simple as there was this side and there was that side, or it was, let's set it up and watch it happen. I think there's a lot of intricacies. There's a lot of nuances in the story. So now we've moved from the Washington Monument. Now we're at the Capitol, right? You walk upon the Capitol. Tell me what happens next.
So we walk up to the Capitol, and there must have been about 100,000, 200,000 people there. I've never seen that many people in my life. And I'm on the west side of the building. The east side of the building also has about the same amount of people. And when we walk up there, everyone's just standing around. There's probably 50, 60 police officers standing around in a semicircle on the west face of the building. And, there's 100,000+ of us standing juxtaposed to them. And we're standing around singing the national anthem. There's a video of this. And then from the police line, pepperballs and gas start raining down on us. There's videos of Capitol officers and Metropolitan Police actually saying that they don't have the authority to do this. This is not the correct response, but they did it anyway. So at that point, as we are pepperballed and we are gassed and concussion grenades are going off, I'm standing in a crowd of probably 60, 70 people, 2 or 3 rows back from the police line, and these canisters start hitting at our feet, probably 2-3 feet away from me. And when these things go off, there is this intrepidal action that happens where if you were to detonate something in a crowd of people in the middle of it, you're going to have outward expansion from the center out, which caused the people in front of us to go towards the police, which we now see on video saying, this is when they started rioting. And it's like, well, they had nowhere to go. They were literally exploding canisters of gas at our feet. So it pushed people towards the police. And that's when the riot that we see all the videos ensued.
Right. So that response by the police, from your perspective, you'd say that's preemptive. The canisters of gas, that's...
Yes, we were standing around. There was no assault on police officers as far as I saw when I was there. Again, 200,000 people are there. It's a very large building, very large grounds.
Yeah.
I liken it to if you're at a football game, when most stadiums hold between 50 to 70,000 people, if someone across from the stadium is in a bathroom, beating the tar out of someone, you have no idea that's going on.
Right.
Right. So to say that anyone, had any idea that police officers were being assaulted, or that everyone had an idea that police officers were being assaulted, is a misnomer. It's actually a falsehood. So where I was standing, people were standing around, and then they gassed and bombed us. So that's what happened afterwards.
And then that causes a reaction. You telling the story, this reminds me, there's a great book. It's called The Guns of August. And it's about the lead up to World War I, like the 6 months, and then the first 6 months of World War I. And there's a theme throughout the book that all these countries and all these players were acting preemptively based on what they thought was about to happen, which escalated into the Great War, right? Yes. It sounds like the same thing was taking place. Whether those officers were purposely agitating, I'm not saying that, or if they were just reacting to what they thought was about to happen. But as we saw it seemed to. So anyway, I'll let you continue.
So as those canisters came out, as those missions came out, I got gassed myself because, when they go off, it's a big cloud that goes up. And I had no desire to be a part of that, so I walked away from that. There was some scaffolding. I climbed that, took some videos, some pictures from the top, kind of just to get a bird's eye view of, oh my gosh, this is crazy what's going on. As I come downstairs from the scaffolding, again, near the west side of the building, I see people that are just walking inside open doors. And me, I've never been to a protest before, never been to a rally. I've seen the Capitol being protested in before and after January 6th. My natural conclusion was the protest is going inside. They're open doors. I'll follow the protest inside.
Were you being waved in by cops? I know we've heard stories of police officers waving people in.
No, I didn't see any cops waving us in. I just saw people walking in, so I followed suit.
Followed the crowd.
Yes, there were a lot of officers that were inside the building when we walked inside, and no one there was telling us to leave. No one there was telling us you can't be here, at least in the crowd that I was in. And again, my experience is different than a lot of other people.
Sure.
I was in a group about 1,600 people, but of the people that I was with, maybe 40 or 50 had the same experience I did.
Yeah, and something that's interesting, the picture, right, the famous picture, you holding a lectern, y'all are actually inside the ropes, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like you supposedly storm the Capitol, but use the sidewalk, like stay inside the ropes.
The majority of people who were in the Capitol were extremely respectful. We walked through a narrow hallway, and then it opens up to the rotunda. And when it opened to the rotunda, everyone kind of stopped what they were doing and just started walking around, taking pictures, looking at the opulence and the history that's painted on canvas and in friezes and the dome. And it was very respectful. And that was the group that I was in. The lectern, we should talk about that. There was the idea that I stole this thing, that I broke down Nancy Pelosi's door, and I took it from her private stairs and private stash and wares. And that is not what happened. This lectern was sitting out in the open. It was not in some secure place. I picked it up. I moved it 30 yards for a picture with it because I thought it would make a great picture in the rotunda. And I left it there. Never took it home with me, but that was the insinuation by every media organization worldwide.
Right, and you were charged for that, correct?
Felony theft.
Felony theft, even though you never took it.
Yes, and even though they knew I never took it, there is CCTV footage that they had day of, day after, every single day up until I was charged, they had evidence of this. There was a news story the very next day. There was a video of them walking out the lectern. It never left the building, and they knew this, and they still charged me with it.
So we moved the lectern. Now you're charged with felony theft. It's amazing. Was that your first time in the Capitol?
Yes,
yeah?
Actually.
So I watched another interview you did. You were doing a Capitol tour. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. So that day I was just taking a walk around. I'd never been there. I actually got lost in the building because it's a very large building. And I actually asked an officer, hey, how do I get out of here? I have no idea how to leave. And he was super polite. And he's like, oh, we're exiting people down the way. Follow this hallway, take a right, walk about 20 yards, and you'll see an exit. Okay,
so you leave. So then at that point you leave. So how much time were we in the Capitol? 20 minutes, an hour, half hour?
They say 20 to 25 minutes, somewhere in there.
20 to 25 minutes. And then you're walking where?
leave the east face to the building, go down some stairs, and I walk all the way back to Georgetown where my hotel is.
And this is the part I'm very interested to hear. So when did the realization set in?
So my phone had died inside. It was a long morning. I had it on some battery packs recharging in my backpack. And when I got about 10, 15%, powered it on, and my phone became unusable because when I turned it on, messages, phone calls, DMs. I mean, every app that I had from, Facebook, Instagram, messaging was just blowing up. I could not make calls because things were still downloading. So I put it in airplane mode, read through a few things, and I was like, oh, everyone knows what happened. And if that wasn't bad enough, about 20 minutes after I got done looking through those things on the way to Georgetown, there was a couple riding their bicycles who stopped mid-sidewalk, pointed at me and said, "That's the guy from the Capitol." So I was being ID'd within 20 minutes of leaving the Capitol in public.
Wow. Before you even knew. Mm-hmm. That's wild. So then you get back to the hotel. I mean, that must have been, I can only imagine, that must have been the feelings, the rush.
Yeah. I called my wife and she said, "What have you done?" I'm like, "It's going to be fine." I walked through the Capitol and I left. And she's like, "Have you seen the news? There's pictures of you. People are texting me. My work is getting threats." And I said, "Well, let me call some of my Leo friends and see if we can't figure out how to find a quick solution to this."
So then this eventually leads to your arrest?
It does. Before I left D.C., I actually contacted the Department of Justice because I'd been named online. They knew where I lived, and I said, "Listen, I'm going home." Left a message. "I'm going home. I'm not fleeing from anything. Here's my number. Here's my address. If you guys need anything, give me a call." Thinking, this is a misunderstanding. Well, we can talk about this. It's my government. They're not going to, prosecute me for walking through a public building and going home. I hired attorneys the next day on the drive home. And by Friday, 2 days afterwards, I was on my way to county jail for 3 charges: felony theft, misdemeanor violent entry, and misdemeanor trespassing.
So they came and picked you up? They came to your house?
No, we were able to I had very good attorneys to the tune of $100,000. And we worked it out to where I could self-surrender to my local county jail.
So, yeah, you brought up your attorneys. Chris Cuomo.
Uh-huh.
Chris Cuomo, correct me if I'm wrong, believed that you didn't deserve the right to a defense or didn't deserve the right to that defense?
Yes, to that defense specifically. My attorneys did an interview, I want to say it was Friday or Saturday night, with Chris Cuomo when he was still working with whatever hack news organization he was working with. And he grilled them saying, "Why do I deserve those attorneys, 2 high-profile attorneys who would give me the best defense possible?"
His attorneys are David Bigney and Dan Eckhart, and they join us now. Gentlemen, thank you.
Chris, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate you giving us the opportunity to speak about our client, Adam Johnson.
Now, Dan, you have a very prestigious pedigree. You were a federal prosecutor. You were a federal agent. Everybody has a right to a defense. They don't have a right to you as counsel. Why does this man deserve your level of defense?
And this stands against our constitutional rights to have the right to a defense. And if you look at a lot of the people who had been charged by the DOJ, AUSA, they were given court-appointed attorneys out of D.C. where they were forced to be charged, which is also, I believe, a constitutional infraction. And some of these attorneys said things like, "We're representing short bus people." I mean, This was the defense these people had. And on top of this, they weren't allowed to crowdsource for better attorneys as well. I wasn't allowed to crowdsource for better attorneys. Well, all that money for my attorneys, the $100,000, came out of our bank account.
Right. Yeah. And the right to a defense, like you said, it's a constitutional right. It actually predates the Constitution. I'm sure you're familiar with the story Boston Massacre, right? Mm-hmm. The Boston Massacre, the British soldiers who were charged were actually defended by John Adams.
Yes.
Because he decided, or he stated, everyone has the right to a defense. So that's the world that we live in. That's what the news is going to say. And it's also shaping people's perception of what happened.
Today's sponsor is freespoke.com. Freespoke.com is a search engine web browser that you need to be using like today, right? We know that Google and Meta, big tech, they've all admitted to censoring political speech. And we know that they collect and sell your data. At Freespoke, they give you both sides to every story. They give you all the information. They give you political perspectives, and they label media bias left, right, or middle, so you know the information that you're consuming. When we do research for these shows, my producer and I exclusively use freespoke.com. Now, you can download the app and start browsing today for free. But if you want an ad-free experience, subscribe and give them promo code COM68. That's promo code COM, COM68. That will give you 35% off a yearly subscription. So make the switch today, use freespoke.com, and let's hold big tech accountable. That's freespoke.com. Think for yourself.
All right, so now you turned yourself in, and how long did we spend? Is prison the right word, or?
County jail. So it was county jail in Pinellas. And the way they'd worked it out is we talked about going in on Monday, because if you go in on Monday, you'll usually see a judge by the end of the day. It's very quick. You get seen before a judge. There's an initial hearing. They bring a criminal complaint, and then the judge rules based on what the prosecution's asking for. If they're going to post bail, conditions, things like that. But because they wanted me to self-surrender on a Friday, that means you're spending the entire weekend in jail. So turned myself in on a Friday. They had me in isolation, 24-hour observation until Monday morning.
And then, so how long was your whole stint? So you were charged, you were in observation, and you spent.
So 4 days in county. After everything was done, we got to a plea agreement. They decided to charge they dropped the felony theft because I stole nothing. They decided to drop the violent entry because there's clear video of me just walking through a building and leaving, unprovoking anyone. And they ended up giving me 75 days in federal prison for misdemeanor trespassing, a $5,000 fine, 200 hours of community service, and a year of supervised release.
Wow. And
with a stipulation of I could not profit off of my crime for 5 years or recoup any costs for my attorney fees.
So tell me what that was like for your family. You know, I'm sure they were supportive through this whole thing, but now, you know, Dad's got to go to federal prison for 75 days. How did they handle that?
I mean, the best they could. We are honest with our kids. We're honest with each other. And when we sat down with them initially, we told them, listen, you know, while the government says Dad committed a crime, I can't beat the government, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And we were looking initially at 10 to 20 years, which were some of the rhetoric they were espousing online, some of the rhetoric that the Department of Justice was considering. And my family was willing to face that and ready prepared to face that because, you know, my wife and I, we understand that when we make a promise to each other of marriage, it means forever.
Amen.
It is a commitment not just to each other, but to God. And we're going to honor that regardless. And my wife and I had that conversation immediately when I came back. I told her, look, if they're talking about 20 years, I mean, you're still young. I mean, she's in her 30s. My kids are, 13 and under at this point. And it's like, I'm not going to be here to teach them how to drive. I'm not going to be here for weddings. I'm not going to be here for graduations, proms, to raise them. I wouldn't expect you to do it alone. And she told me, I gave her an out. And the good woman that she is, the faithful woman that she is, she said, there's no way I'm going to betray my oath to God, my oath to you. I'm here as long as it takes, and I'll be here when you get out. And that was our decision from day one.
Yeah, young men, take note. All right, if you're listening, young men, take note. That's wonderful. What a wonderful family. What a wonderful wife. Now we say Trump pardoned everybody.
He pardoned most people. I think there was blanket pardons, but I think there was 18 commutations of sentences.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Is there like a community of J6ers? Like y'all or is this like a close-knit family? In my head, I imagine y'all all like on a group chat sending gifts constantly, right? Sending memes.
There are factions of J6ers, and it is unfortunate to report that there are some factions that are different than others, have different outcomes they're seeking and different avenues in which they're seeking them. And I can say that I wish everyone the best. Everyone deals with what happened to them differently. For my part, I try to communicate with everyone. I understand everyone has their own things going on, but I try not to draw allegiances between one group or the other. That's probably the most politically correct way that I could say it.
Yeah, sure. So what changed in your life after the pardon? How did that change your legal status?
Unfortunately, it did not. It did absolutely zero for me. By the time the pardons came, I'd already served my entire prison sentence. I paid my fine, done my community service. I had finished up my supervised release. So the pardon, it's more of like a nod, sorry this happened to you.
How did it make you feel? I mean, is this still important?
I'm indifferent on it. How do I phrase this? To get my pardon, I have to email the DOJ and AUSA. That's the Assistant United States Attorney's Office. My BOP number, which is my Bureau of Prisons number. They assign you when you go to prison. I have to give them my case number, date of birth, name, social, all these things. And at the end of it, they will, after they, look into everything, they will email me a PDF file where I can print out my pardon at home. And, I try not to have too much of an ego, try not to be too much of a narcissist, but I think they can send me a piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah, you can frame it next to the picture of you holding the lectern, obviously. Where else would you put
it? To print it out at the house, I don't know. It kind of feels like a slap in the face is probably the wrong phrasing to use, but it kind of feels like a
diminished response.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah. So before I let you go, first of all, thank you. Excellent story. Thanks again for being here. I want to tell the listeners, right, my sponsor, freespoke.com. So Adam Johnson, the Lectern Guy. If you Google Adam Johnson, you're going to get the top 3 pages are going to be liberal bias media results. Okay, if we use freespoke.com, you get both sides of the story. You get all political perspectives and give them promo code COM68 and receive 35% off. And don't take my word for it. Do it yourself. Go Google Adam Johnson and then use FreeSpoke. Find out the whole story. That's part of why he does all these shows, tells the story. It's important to have information. And Adam, what's next for you? Tell me a little more about what you're doing through Unlicensed Furniture Movers and the book.
Well, I don't have a Give, Send, Go. I don't have a GoFundMe. I'm not one who wants to ask for charity. I'd rather, work off the $100,000 of attorney fees. So I sell books, I sell, trinkets, this and that. And as far as my ambitions, after getting reimbursed for the $100,000 attorney fees, I'm working with state legislators to get a couple things passed in my state. The big thing I'm pushing for right now in the state of Florida, if you have like 30 seconds, if you're in public school, the default for sex education is you have to opt your children out of sex education in public schools. I think it should be the exact opposite. I think that if we're going to push for parental rights, then the default should be, I have to opt my kids in for this. So we're working on getting legislation passed where the default is there is no stranger that gets to talk to children about sex or orientation or gender or any of that without the parents' permission. So that is what I'm working on for the next year.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I did 2-3 episodes ago about Netflix. I'm sure you saw the big stir right on X with Netflix, with all their shows, which, unfortunately, a lot of times when, and you have 5 kids, when things get hectic, you just throw on the TV and kind of let Netflix babysit them, and look what they're doing, know?
Well, they are consistent, if not anything else.
Yeah, and persistent. And yes, absolutely. So that's great work. Adam Johnson, everybody. Where can we find you? You're on X, the website, unlicensedfurnituremovers.com. Is that right?
That's correct. On Twitter, you can find me, or X, you can find me at Lectern Leader.
Okay, and then the last thing I said, we were going to give away a book. This is my question. So text me when you see the podcast. Send us a text. My question is, it's kind of fitting. There was a president in United States history that threw a party at the White House, open to the public, and the White House got trashed. That's a true story. Which president was it? First person to text me which president that was gets a free copy of Take a Stand.
Sounds good. I will also sign that copy. So
awesome. All right, great. Thanks for listening, everybody. Adam, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, have a good one.
In today's world, when media moves lightning fast and so many people are so quick to give you their perspective, give you their opinions on something that happened without knowing all the facts, it's always great to get back to the source, get back to the person, hear it from the horse's mouth. Please go check out his merch. He's got a lot of merchandise on his website. That's unlicensedfurnituremovers.com. Give his book a read. Text us. If you're the first to text the answer to my question, I'm going to get you a signed copy of his book. Reach out to him. Follow him on X. He responds. He's doing a lot. As he said, he's very active in Florida and getting into politics, trying to change things for the better. You know, he took a situation that happened. He took his circumstance. He didn't let his circumstance define him. Yeah, now he's known as the Lectern Guy, but he's owned that moniker. He's owned that name, and he's going to do what God put him on this planet to do, and he's going to fight for the rights and fight for moral justice, fight for the rights of children. And it was really inspiring. So thank you all for listening to me today. I pray blessings over you and your family. I pray God blesses you coming in and you going out. I pray peace, power, and prosperity. And remember, you live in the greatest country on earth, and it's up to you to keep it.
You are listening to Commission 6-8.
I invite you into the roller coaster ride of my life in the award-winning book, For Such a Time as This, How I Navigated the World of Multifamily Real Estate to Close My First Deal, and How You Can Too. From the very first page, you'll dive into the raw emotions of ambition and resilience, facing one crushing setback after another. Yet, through each trial, I discovered new depths of determination and learned invaluable lessons in negotiation and perseverance. This isn't just a story about overcoming financial hurdles. It's about the profound personal growth that comes from navigating life's toughest challenges. It's about faith, family, and the unwavering belief that setbacks are not the end, but the beginning of something greater. For Such a Time as This, How I Navigated the World of Multifamily Real Estate to Close My First Deal, and How You Can Too, by award-winning author Randy Millette. Available on Amazon.